We're going to win. We're working hard.
Joe, this is a tremendous turnout tonight. The Irish community has turned out in great numbers for you, and I think it portends a very strong turnout on September 10th and a victory in the primary for you. And I'll tell you, you have a lot of excited people here tonight for your candidacy. It's incredible. The feeling here is incredible.
God bless the Irish. And you're right. The Irish make up, I'm told, 30% of this congressional district, and that is the largest ethnic group in the district. And I'm so proud and pleased to have this kind of a turnout, because I represented, as you know, as a congressman, a great ethnic Irish community in Yonkers and in the lower part of Westchester County. And it was at that time that I became very much involved with Irish affairs, not only locally in the community, but in Northern Ireland with Mario Biaggi, and then with Congressman Ham Fish, God rest his soul now, and also Tom Manton, and Ben Gilman. In fact, I just came back from Washington. I was with Ben. So it's just wonderful to see this outpouring of affection and support. And I can't wait to get back to Washington to show my Irish friends the kind of activist I can be again for them, both locally here on things like Tara Circle, the cultural center that we do need in Briarcliff, and also the Great Hunger Foundation to memorialize the blight, which was really, we know, a political oppression by the British. You know, someone said God created the blight, but the British created the famine.
That's true.
And it's going to be wonderful to get back and also to deal now with the issue of a peace in Ireland with honor and justice. I was the one who introduced the One Ireland resolution that was put out by the AOH and Father Sean McManus back in 1985, and I'd be pleased to reintroduce it again. In fact, it's probably a better time for it with what we see going on, the brokering of this peace.
That's true. You know, Eleanor McDonald cannot be here tonight because she's attending the AOH convention in Minnesota.
God bless Eleanor.
But Eleanor
Thank you,
said,
Eleanor.
said that Joe has always showed loyalty to the Irish community, whether it was Joe Doherty, whether it was passing legislation concerning the McBride principles, or whether it was just generally supporting the Irish community, and especially with publicly getting out and supporting Tara Circle when we know that in the village of Briarcliff there was tremendous opposition by a small group of individuals, not to condemn the whole community, but a small group of individuals showed hatred and bigotry towards the Irish, and Joseph was the first one to stand up publicly and denounce it for what it was and ask the village to consider Tara Circle as a cultural center for the Irish community.
You remember I waited online there for 2.5 hours that night,
at least,
just to get on to make that testimony,
right.
And I did it with great honor and love for the Irish people. You know, I was born and raised in the Bronx,
right,
in an Irish neighborhood, went to Fordham Prep, Fordham University, and the Irish Jesuits were my surrogate fathers. You know, my dad came here with no education,
right.
God rest his soul, mom's still here, and America gave my family, as it did the Irish, great opportunity. But having the exposure to the Irish in their neighborhoods, and here's Mom here. Mom, come here. I'm being interviewed right now. And, this is my mother. She's 83. Can't wait for the next election. She gets younger with every election. Remember the book that Joe Namath wrote in 1987 or 88 around the Super Bowl? He says, I can't wait till tomorrow because I get better looking every day. Mom can't wait till the next election because she gets more energy. 83 young.
This boy has a lot of energy. And I tell you the truth.
I got it from you, Mom.
I know. And with your energy and your enthusiasm, you're going to do a whole lot for the people, and they need you.
Mom's got a great definition of enthusiasm.
Yes.
And she says of all the things, you can be smart, you can be dedicated, but you need enthusiasm. It turns on your energy. And she found a great quote, and I call her on the phone from time to time, and she repeats it to me. Why don't you say it here? Enthusiasm.
No, enthusiasm is the sparkle in your eye, the grip in your hand, the surge in will and energy to execute his ideas. Enthusiastics are fighters. They have fortitude. They have staying qualities. And enthusiasm is at the bottom of all
Success. Without it, there is no success. And
no, with it there is success. Without it, there are only alibis.
Thank you, Grace. Thank you.
We were just talking about the Irish, and I told how we, in the Bronx, the grocery store you and Dad had,
Yes.
in the Irish neighborhood, that remember I used to deliver orders to Mrs. Fallon and Mrs. Riley
My
as
children,
a young kid.
They dealt with people from very, very young. When they came into the store, they wanted to know where Joe and Angel is.
Yes.
They wanted to know where the children were. They were so interested in that the children were so closely knitted with the parents.
And while they worked hard, and we were there with them, Mom was always comforted and comfortable in knowing that the Irish Jesuits were taking care of their son, her son Joey, and they worked hard in that store to count my tuition out of the cash register. Sure, we worked, but you know, it wasn't easy in those days. I remember it was like for 6 months, $125 back in 1953, 54, which is a lot of money. Had to be counted pretty much out of the cash register.
Yes.
They made it nickels and dimes.
But
So
I didn't mind not one penny
got a good education.
because I got 3 jewels for children, and they are the best in the world, and
Thank
I
you,
love
Mom.
them.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay.
Well, just to complete, you know, people say, well, why did I do so much for the Irish people, and why are they here for me? It's not a question of politics. It's a question of what you feel, who you're comfortable with. And as I said, I was raised with the Irish. I was schooled with them at Fordham Prep, Fordham University. I came to Westchester County, and I was delighted to represent Yonkers and a great Irish community. And they adopted me, and politically, when I understood their plight, really understood it for the first time when I got into Congress in Northern Ireland, I said, you know, this is a crusade that I got to really go all out for, and it's not finished yet, as you know. We got to finish it. I've always said that the partition of Ireland was a crime against democracy and against history, and it must be corrected. And the only superpower in that area is Great Britain. They're the only ones that can resolve this. And when they decide that it should be resolved, it will be resolved. And people say, well, you know, what about the bombing? You got to condemn violence everywhere. But look at the frustration of the Irish people. I mean, every trick in the book has been played to keep them down. Look at the poverty, the discrimination of Northern Ireland. I went there. I went in front of the Ford plant with Bruce Morrison in '87. And you went through Belfast to see the rank discrimination. That's why we have the McBride principles. It's important for the Americans to know about this. I think it was one of the great Irish heroes, and I can't remember the name right now, but it'll come to me, when asked about what would it take to bring peace to Northern Ireland, he says it would take Charles de Gaulle. And when asked, he said, what do you mean by that? He says, well, when Charles de Gaulle became president, he had his Northern Ireland, it was called Algeria. And he looked around, he said, you know, this is not France. And he took the troops out. We need a great English statesman, and we hope it's Major or someone to say that Northern Ireland is not England, and to get the troops out, and you'll see how the peace then comes back.
Well, I know that we need you back in Congress to convince them that that is the case.
Okay. Well, you're going to hear my speech tonight, and I hope you get it on tape, and we'll make sure we get it out, because this is one issue I understand extremely well, and you can be sure I'll be a fighter on this like you can't believe.
Well, I'm asking everyone in the Irish community to get out on September 10th and support Joe in the primary, and let's return him to Congress in the 19th District, and we'll have a spokesman for the Irish community.
Now, to talk about ethnicity, you know, tonight it's the Irish. Right. In a few weeks it'll be the Italians. Right. And you know that we have a very great multi-ethnic district, and that's what America's all about. We get our strength from our diversity. And here, standing here, is Sal Catucci, my Italian friend, American friend, who I was raised with in Elmsford. Hiya, Sal. Thank you so much. And Faik Lita, an Albanian American who just came off the plane with me from Washington, where we went down to represent the plight of the ethnic Albanians now in the University at Titova in Macedonia, where they just arrested the professors merely for wanting education in their tongue. Right. So, Sal, thank you so much for coming and joining me with my Irish friends tonight. And Faik, you too. So you see, we do have solidarity.
Well, I look at it this way.
It's America.
Joe's from a very happy family, a big Italian family, and he projects those feelings to the entire community. And you can see it here tonight. There's no question about it.
Thank you.
We need Joe back in Congress.
Thank you very much.
Please get out there and vote.
And Mike, thanks for all you're doing.
Listen, I couldn't be doing it for a better person.
Thank you. Okay.
For our blessings tonight, and to ask God to give us wisdom for Joe DioGuardi's campaign. So can we all bow our heads, please, just for a minute? Heavenly Father, we thank you, Almighty God, for living in America. We thank you, Lord God, for our freedom. We thank you, Lord God, for 1996 and the challenge ahead of us in this country. And now, Father, as we get together tonight, as we gather together, we ask you to bless our fellowship. We ask you to bless this food that would nourish our bodies. And we ask you, Lord God, to bless the rest of the campaign. Give us wisdom and insight. In Jesus Christ's name I pray, amen.
Anyway, gives me great pleasure to introduce a fabulous band who have been great supporters of Joe DioGuardi in his campaign for Congress. I'd like to introduce the Clancy Tradition.
we're going to play one little selection, and then we're going to join you and have a little bite to eat because we didn't get any dinner either. So we'll play a song or two, and then we'll have a little meal, and we'll get right back.
Support for civil rights involving Irish Americans. Although my meeting with you did not convince me that you really cared about Tara Circle, I was willing to be a believer. In fact, when you wrote to me on October 11, 1995, and stated, "Please know that I am looking forward to working with you to see the dream of Tara Circle become a reality," I took you at your word. It was never my desire to fight with a member of Congress. It was never my desire to refuse help from those who profess to offer assistance. Therefore, I have repeatedly called your office for such help. I have asked your staff on 7 occasions for specific help with Tara Circle. I have asked for cooperation in organizing special orders in the House of Representatives. I have also told your staff countless times that if you don't want to help, just say so. I have also remained silent when you publicly stated you are working with me, even though you were not. This letter is to advise that I will remain silent no longer about your complete failure to help Irish Americans in building Tara Circle. Although I write this letter as an individual, not representing any organization, I know that I speak for many in stating you have hurt Tara Circle by your conspicuous absence. History has evidenced many who failed to come forward when bigotry and hate threatened the Irish, and the truth is that you are one who has failed to help the Irish establish Tara Circle when bigotry and hate were rampant. Although this letter will certainly incur your wrath, parentheses, that I have personally experienced before, I have an obligation to tell the truth no matter what the personal consequences. Very truly yours, Dennis E. A. Lynch. I think Dennis speaks for all of us. That's why we're here tonight, to support Joe DioGuardi, who has been a defender of human rights all over the world, and especially in Northern Ireland. And I recall the time when they built the Ford assembly plant right in the Irish Catholic area, but they wouldn't employ any of the Irish Catholics in the area. Joe went over there and personally stood in front of the plant, threatened to close the place down, and within a couple of days, they changed those rules. And that's the kind of representation we're going to get back when we get Joe back to Congress. I also have a message from Ed Sheeran, who's also in Ireland and has been a strong supporter of Joe's throughout this campaign, and he wishes everybody here a pleasant evening. He asked Eamon Smith to represent him on his behalf, and I'd like to call Eamon up to say a few words. Eamon?
Thank you, John. I've been thrown to the wolves here a little bit, but I do appreciate the honor of being here to support a gentleman who has a long history of supporting the Irish and their causes. And there is none more pertinent at the moment than the Tara Circle, of course, which if not all, most of you are aware of. Ed Sheeran is the chairman of the Tara Circle, and unfortunately he could not be here tonight because he's in Ireland. He had to go over there in a slight emergency, thankfully not family related. Ed Kirk, the vice chairman, is also in Ireland. Sounds like everybody's in Ireland, except us tonight. Dr. Delamere is going on Monday. Former Congressman DioGuardi has, like I said, always been a strong supporter of the Irish, but never more so than recently, when he was called upon by Ed Sheeran and some other people in the room who are aware of what Tara Circle is all about and what we have faced in Briarcliff Manor. It's unfortunate that something like that should exist in the 90s. We thought we had overcome it, but yet we haven't. And we will. The struggle is long, it's hard, but those who started this whole endeavor have not lost sight of the goal. And some of us have been involved from day one, and some people have come on recently, but it really doesn't detract from when you came in. It doesn't detract from the cause and why the Tara Circle is an absolute must and why it will happen. But I'm here on behalf of Ed Sheeran and the Tara Circle board, and there's a couple of more of them out of the country at the moment who couldn't be here tonight, but they are all, one and all, 110% behind Joe, and that's how they're going to stay, because he represents us, he represents you, he's been there before, done a great job, and there's no doubt in my mind or anyone else, I'm sure in this room, that when he gets back in November, he will be there for one and all of us. I'd just like to say, if I may, use this moment to congratulate and thank Stephen MacDonald for being such a strong supporter of everything Irish. Stephen, you are an inspiration to us all, and we appreciate your presence here. If I may just mention a couple of other people we have also representing the Tara Circle is Tom Burns. He's a Vice President of Chemical Bank. He's also the Chairman of the Advisory Committee for the Tara Circle. We have Barney Ferguson, a retired Vice President of the Retired Detectives Association of New York City. Frankie Byrne, and I think we should get a nice round of applause there for Frankie. Frankie, the past chairman of the St. Patrick's Day Parade Committee in New York City, and his son Tom, and of course Dennis McCarthy. Dennis McCarthy, his name may not be right on the top of your lips tonight, but you are going to hear more and more about Dennis. He's running for Congress against Elliot Engel in the Bronx, in the 17th Congressional District, and some of his views, or most of his views, are espoused also by Joe. I know Tom Burns is down there timing me, and I don't want to hold you up. We had a wonderful evening so far. I'm sure it's only going to get better. We thank you, and I wish you all the luck that I can possibly wish you, and we'll be there for you.
Thank you, Eamon, very much. And I just wanted to recognize the staff who have been through a lot in the last 2 months with the petition drive and organizing everything and keeping the office going. And first like to recognize a person who is responsible for bringing us all together here tonight, Diane Caputo. And in addition, we also have with us our press agent and research writer, Bob Foyce. And I see down there, when Eamon was mentioning Dennis is running for Congress, he came to me, he says, yeah, we marched together in the St. Patrick's Day Parade recently. I was the marshal telling you to hurry up. And along with me was one of our big supporters and listed as an intern, Mr. Tim Freeman, who made it through the whole parade despite his difficulty. And we also have with us a real go-getter, someone who comes in and works like you wouldn't believe, Mr. Charlie Garfinkel. Hi, Charlie. And we have our fantastic boy wonder, young man from the Fordham University, who's come in and done such a great job with everything, Adrian Cockerell. Also would like to recognize our driver for different events and big supporter, Mr. Mike Ryan, Sr. And I see over there another one of our big supporters and liaison to the Catholic Coalition, Mr. Michael Mannix. And last but not least, someone who's been with Joe for a long time and who's taught me a lot and who's been a tremendous help and support to the entire staff and to this campaign, Ms. Susan Fitzpatrick. Hope I didn't leave anybody out. There's a number of people from the staff that couldn't make it, but I think he's still here. Our legal counsel, Stephen DeLuca. Is he still here? Oh, there he is. Hi, Steve. He's going to be doing a JSD down at Tulane shortly. Going to be leaving us. And I just recognized another one of our big supporters, someone who came in early, who helped us out tremendously with the petition drive, Mr. Bill Hitt. Hey, Bill. Also, I'd like to recognize some of the members of the executive committee of the campaign and our largest supporters. We have with us the chairman of the board, Mr. Sal Catucci. Hey, Sal. And sitting right to his right, member of the dinner committee and one of our biggest supporters in Putnam County, who's going to get out all of the voters, Mr. Dr. Delamere. No one works harder in Putnam County than that man, I'll tell you. And let's see, we have also with us the president of the Catholic Coalition, Mr. Stan Tomkiel. Hi, Stan. And also over on our left, we have Mimi Cardelemi. Kenny couldn't be with us. Mimi's sitting in. And also here tonight with us is our biggest supporter in Dutchess County and the person who was responsible for Joe getting nominated, and the president of the Republican Women's Caucus. I think I got that wrong, but Republican Women's Group in Wappinger Falls, and first vice president in Dutchess County, Miss Anna Mae D'Amelio. And I also want to recognize someone who's day in and day out been supporting Joe, and although he lives outside the district, couldn't find a finer man to support him and to work hard behind the scenes. That's Mr. John McGloin. John's the chairman of the Conservative Party in Greenberg. Soon to replace Vinnie Nitrella. We'll see. And we have also with us some conservative leaders from Putnam County, Mr. Richie Jedlicka. Hey, Richie. And also with us is Miss Mary McGuigan. And I'd like to recognize her son, Bob Jr., who's running for county legislator. You know, in Putnam County, we had a lot of resistance, as we did in Dutchess, but there was always one person who shined, Anna Mae in Dutchess, and then who was going to come out in Putnam and go against that machine, the machine that endorsed and backed Mary Goodhue over George Pataki. And besides, Dr. Delamere couldn't do it because he was not a delegate to the committee, but he worked hard and got people together. But the one person who emerged and stood up and had the guts to say, I'm going to stand as my own man, and I'm going to endorse the person who I think is the best candidate for Congress, and that we have the pleasure of having with us Mr. Bob McGuigan, Sr. We also have here, Joe's a staunch human rights activist all over the world and in Northern Ireland, and here with him are his many friends from the Albanian American Civic League. I also want to recognize a very special person. We have with us the president of the Irish American Social Club of Northern Westchester and Putnam Counties, Mr. Tom Kenna. Tom? And at this time, I have one more announcement. Did I miss anybody? We have with us the president of the Westchester Irish Committee, Mr. Hugh Fox, Jr. Hi, Hugh. Now, I think that Mrs. Grace DioGuardi wanted to say a few words, and I was going to bring the mic down, and she wanted to say a few words about her son, Joe. There she is.
I'll kind of bring it down.
Okay. Does this one work? No. Let me just move this. Can I have some help? No, it's not working. Here, take this one. Yeah? Okay. I hope this works.
I'm not going to sing a song. Don't worry about it. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. Give yourself a round of applause. Please. Thank you. I thank you. My family thanks you. All the supporters that you see around you, thank you as well. Because when we come together collectively like this, we send a very strong message that this campaign now has wings. Before it was walking, actually it was crawling. In the latter part of last year, we had an exploratory committee, but we had some early supporters who saw some interesting things that I saw, and then we started to walk. We went to every town committee we could. Of the 40, I went. And I was coming on strong, and I wanted to pay them. Cases as their former congressman, because don't forget, this district has a third of my old district. That's why this is a natural political home for Joe DioGuardi. Many Republicans, many conservatives, many ethnic Irish, many ethnic Italians, and a lot of good Christian, Catholic, and Orthodox Jewish people that believe in traditional family values, all the things that brought you here tonight. Okay? And that's why this campaign now is going from the crawling to the walking through the conventions, 4 conventions, where we shot them with 36% in Orange County, which I didn't represent, 25% in Westchester County, and you're talking about the party regulars. These are the people that flex their muscles. This is a beauty contest for the Republican leadership, the machine, and I walked in there, and they couldn't believe how much support we had. Now we go out for the petitions, and guess what? We didn't have the machine behind us. We had you. We had the people. We had we the people. The 3 most powerful words in the world start off our Constitution. We the people. And we had an army. Instead of 1,250 Republican petitions, we got 3,150. 2.5 times. And we didn't stand on the street corners. We had the lists. We went to their homes. We know every one of those signatures is good and real, and no one's going to challenge them. On the Conservative Party, we needed 408. We delivered 750. Again, we went door to door. And we needed to get conservatives, registered conservatives, to get those. Not easy. On the Right to Life, we needed 60. We got 160. So we came through that process, and again, we told the people that we have the people on our side. We have the people on Main Street. That's what I believe as a conservative Republican, conservative pro-life Republican. That the real power in America is not on Capitol Hill, not on Wall Street, it's on Main Street. It's you, the people. And that's why I didn't get out of this race. That's why I told Newt Gingrich in February, and I just told him again 2 days ago, he's now censuring, would you believe, he's punishing Bob Dornan and Chris Smith for not withdrawing the endorsement. Bob Dornan called me in my office the other night. He says, put your staff on. He starts off his conversation. Joseph, protector of Christ. What a beautiful name. And he gets into his routine like he's on the Rush Limbaugh show, right? That's Bob Dornan. He says, Joe, you gotta be prepared. You're gonna get calls from everybody, but play it for what it's worth. Because the emperor has no clothes, and I told him so. That's Newt Gingrich. He said, this guy is going off his rocker. He thinks he's going to create a tent down here to bring in everybody. He thinks he's going to tell the people in your district who their representatives should be, and certainly it's not going to be Sue Kelly if I have anything to do about it, after her votes on partial birth abortions, after number 3 in the gay rights activism on the caucus. No, Joe, I told Newt I am not withdrawing that endorsement of you. And he went, and Chris Smith said the same thing. I'm not. I get on the plane today, I will look at the Washington Post, and there's Dornan. There it is. It's all over the papers in Washington. Newt Gingrich is making me now a public figure again. And there's Dornan saying, I'm a fighter pilot from the Vietnam War. I'm not going to buckle under for the likes of Newt Gingrich. I'm going to do the right thing. I don't stand for political expedience. I stand for principle. And I'm going to continue to support Joe DioGuardi. And Chris Smith said, this is a free country. And you know what the speaker did to Chris Smith yesterday? Got me on the phone. I was in Washington. Calls me at the Hotel Washington. Took away his budget for his planned trip to Bosnia. Can you imagine? Here is Chris Smith, the chairman of the subcommittee on human rights of Congress. He's also the chairman of the Helsinki Commission. He's the House guy. It switched from D'Amato back to Smith. And the speaker, who does control everything, and the money, took away the budget, so now he can't go on that trip. Now, if that doesn't backfire on him, I don't know what will. But Smith said, no, I'm not going to withdraw the endorsement. It stands. I can never support Sue Kelly. Bob Dornan, and you know what he told me? He says, Joe, we had a caucus yesterday, and it was all about you. And here is Sue Kelly staring at me, and I stared it down. He told me this on the phone last night. Because here, our great congressman, Ham Fish, as you know, passed away. That's why we had that primary in 1994 that was so confused. And before I forget, I would like you to stand for a minute, out of respect for Ham Fish and the public service that the whole Fish family, 100 years of congressman, but Ham, I got to know very well. He was an Irish activist. He succeeded Mario Biaggi as co-chairman of that caucus. And now, God rest his soul, great man. Just a moment of silence. Yes, Lord, receive him in those green pastures. Give him eternal peace and happiness. He has served his country well. He was a gentle man, a mentor of mine. And the Irish people shouldn't forget that when I went to Ireland, and I was trying to reform the immigration rules with my friend Tom Murray, the AOH. It was Ham Fish, who was the vice chairman of the Judiciary Committee. At that time, it was controlled by the Democrats. So he would have been the chairman, but he was vice chairman, that we needed to get to sign off on a bill that the Democrats already signed off on. And that bill created the so-called Donnelly visas, because it was a Democrat that was in charge of that committee, and then led to the lottery that we have right now. By the way, sit down, and I think we had our moment of silence, but I wanted you to know that there's a lot about Ham Fish the Irish people should not forget. He was an activist for the Irish people, and as I said, let's hope he has found eternal peace. I know he has. Good man. In any case, the irony is that Sue Kelly put out a pious statement yesterday. I certainly put out a statement offering my deep condolences to the Fish family. I will go to the funeral, by the way, at West Point on Saturday to be with the family. But here is Chris Smith telling me, Joe, you sent me that article where in the press in 1994, Ham Fish Jr., the son of the congressman, who tried to become the Democrat congressman to succeed his father, then told the story that it was Sue Kelly that picketed his father's office in 1992. She wore a black chador, as they do in the Mideast, and it was supporting Neil McCarthy. Because again, this woman worships at the altar of the abortion lobby. So everything to her is, what are we going to do with abortion? So here she is picketing our great Congressman Ham Fish. And when she was exposed by the son, now a Democrat running with the father's active support, her response was, well, I thought it would make the statement that Fish represented women in the Dark Ages. And in effect, comparing this great congressman with the Ayatollah. That is the woman who made the statement now about the pious statement. So Chris Smith read that at the Republican caucus yesterday, and he said, I stared her down, and all she could do is shake her head like it wasn't her, and I had it in writing. He says, Joe, take that statement, send it to every member of Congress. I've set it up for you. He called me at the hotel last night with a note. And by the way, these guys are trying to tell people that Joe can't win. It's impossible for him to win, and we got to be sure we stand behind Sue Kelly, which is nonsense. This is the political nonsense that goes on. And he says, there are too many young members down here. Get a statement to them. Tell them who you are. Show them that you are the vice chairman of GOPAC, that you wrote that book with Newt, House of Ill Repute, that you were the chairman of the Baltimore Conference 2 years in a row to create the revolution that Newt inherited. You know what? I'm going to take his advice. We're going to send 235 Republican members. They're not going to vote for me, but they're going to hear from me. And we're going to put a little heat on Newt Gingrich because he deserves it. And they're right. The emperor has no clothes, and it's about time someone told him, besides Dornan and Smith. Joe DioGuardi is going to say, Newt, you don't have your clothes on. Please go back and get dressed. Because this is, America is beginning to talk. I'm glad this is all on tape. I may just send them the tape and save myself the steps. In any case, you know, people say, Joe, where do you get your energy? And by the way, I just returned from a glorious trip, a labor of love for me, because as I did with my Irish constituencies, in representing them back as a congressman in Yonkers, and now in Briarcliff, Terrace Circle, thank you for those very kind comments. And I wish Ed was here tonight with Dennis. But I think about what we did in Northern Ireland, and I think about the incredible timing of me running now at a time when there is a chance, really a chance, to solve this issue. Now you might say, well, how? Well, there's a lot more talk going on now than there was 10 years ago. And now they've exposed the British for what they are. You know, I made a statement, and I'll say it now to you because it was one of the things I think that got the Clancy brothers, the Clancy tradition here, because it was on Pat Delamere's show. Remember that? You said, Joe, say a few words about Northern Ireland. By the way, you gave them all easy questions. You gave me the toughest subject of all on that show, Northern Ireland. Not easy to talk about. But let me tell you what I said, because it ended up getting us the wonderful music we have here tonight. Because they said after that, Joe, that was a great statement. You know, if you ever do anything, we want to support you. And here's what I said. That the partition of Ireland is a crime against history and democracy. And it has to be resolved. And I further said that there's only one great power in that part of the world, and that's England. England holds all the cards. England has to solve it, or it doesn't get resolved. And so far, they've been playing games. They don't want to resolve it. Let me give you an example. Albert Reynolds is no longer the Prime Minister. Why? When he started making sense, when he started showing that there could be a way to resolve this, looking at history and looking forward, he said something. Thank God I got good advisors to do my research. Is Liam Murphy here tonight? No. But Liam came with me to Northern Ireland, drove me there, taught me about every Irish battle, every bridge we went over, from Dublin to Belfast. And one of the things that I understood from Liam was that back in 1922, there was an Anglo-Irish treaty. And that treaty said that Ireland would be petitioned for only 5 years. I wonder how many of you know that it was only for 5 years. When Albert Reynolds started talking that way and started making sense, the English government made trouble for him and they had to get him out of there. So that tells you that England doesn't really want to solve this problem. And that's why we've got to lobby Mr. Clinton. I don't know who's going to be president, but let's face it. We got to go for the people who support the issues. And right now, President Clinton has made all the right moves on Ireland. You know, he may not have made some other moves, but on that one he has. But no matter who's president, they better start putting the pressure on the British government, England, to solve this problem. Right? But you know what? It's been the other way around. I'm sorry to say. I was a member of the Republican Party with Bush and Reagan. And here we have Mies overriding Judge Sprizzo, who said Joe Dougherty, however you want to pronounce it, one of the greatest, smartest judges of all, John Sprizzo, federal court, said this was a political situation and the man should be granted political asylum here. Reagan didn't buy it. Bush didn't buy it. Remember Meese? Meese did everything, and before Bush got out of office, they put Joe Dougherty on a plane and sent him to England. Well, I went to visit him in the jail. In fact, I went to see his mother with him and his sister, and I brought them home to see you, Mom, and I still have some correspondence with him. What a shame. But you know what that was all about? We were implementing the foreign policy of England here in America. Can you imagine that? That's what we were doing. That's the hold that the British government had on us. Why? Don't tell me. I don't know. Maybe we needed a stronger Irish lobby. I have the same situation right now with our great Albanian friends, and I'm going to introduce a few of them because they came all the way to Macedonia. I didn't know I was going to go to Washington yesterday and the day before, but I had to because things are boiling there again. People are being arrested for no good reason. We got to stand up for that kind of thing. Stand up for human rights, wherever it is. So I don't think there's ever been a better time for me to go back, especially on the Irish issue. England does hold all the cards. I think there was one Irishman that was asked, who was part of the Fort Worth Five, I forgot his name, oh, Ken Tierney. Ken Tierney. They asked him, what would it take to solve the issue of Ireland? You know what he said? Charles de Gaulle. Now that was a strange comment. So they said, well, what do you mean Charles de Gaulle? Well, because when Charles de Gaulle got to be president of France, he had his Northern Ireland. It was called Algeria. And he made a decision that Algeria was not France and got his troops out of there. Well, we need a brave British politician, maybe it's John Majors, maybe it's somebody else we don't know, to say the same thing. Northern Ireland is not England. Get the British troops out. And then you'll see how fast this situation is resolved. Now, if you like what I'm saying, you're going to love to hear me in Congress. Get me there, and you'll hear me giving that speech in the well on my one-minute speeches in a day. Don't forget, Congressman for personal privilege, every day, a one-minute speech before Congress begins, and after Congress ends, you can give up to an hour speech with special orders. I know I'm going to help the Albanian people that way. I'd be delighted to get out there and kick some butt and see if we can get the British government to understand what it has to do to bring peace there, to get rid of some of this frustration that's causing now this violence. Nobody supports violence, but how long can you take this kind of frustration? So I hope they got the message. In any case, thank you. Now, I don't want you here too long. I hope they're pouring the coffee. Is the coffee out? Bring the, is that, they poured it? Good. Mom, come over here. I want you to, people say, Joe, where do you get this energy from? Listen, you know the old saying, the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. Let me introduce you to the tree. I'm the fruit, here's the tree. Mama DioGuardi is 83, going on 55. She's got that kind of energy. She had a grocery store in the Bronx. Now it's called the South Bronx. Anything south of Fordham Road, Tremont Avenue, there with Dad. I was behind that counter. In fact, we had a great letter that we sent out when I was running against Bella Rabzik. Imagine Bella Rabzik, I had to debate her 11 times while I had my mother by my side. I mean, she walks in with Shirley MacLaine, I walked in with Mom. And they bought Mom faster than they bought Shirley MacLaine. But then Mom sent a letter out to everybody about her son, Joey. I still have it. And I tell you, we got to send it out in this campaign. How he packed the shelves, how he delivered the orders, how he went to school and did well with his marks, and everything else. Mom, that letter you got to write again. All right? Got to let it. But here's Mom. You know, it's incredible. On Sunday mornings, she gets up, 7 o'clock. She's got Reverend Schuler, the Crystal Cathedral. She goes to Mass at least 4 times on Sunday. After that, she's got Charles Stanley. And then she watches the Catholic Church on television. Then she says, who's taking me to church today? So then, either myself or my sister Angel is here or my brother, we run over, we take turns and we take her to church. And she's praying for, obviously, her family. She's praying for her country. And she misses my father, her great husband who died in 1987. My father, thank God he saw me elected as a congressman, but didn't see me lose, so he's a happy man out there. Mom always says that, you know. But in any case, Mom's got this enthusiasm, and she listens to all these shows. She's a kind of a positive thinker. She's always been that way. The rainiest day in the world, she'd get me up with the smell of buns or food or coffee, music, you know, and that's what we need. How can government replace the family? You want to talk about welfare? Look at the welfare motels all over Elmsford, Westchester County, $50 million a year, warehousing people. They can't live together. You can't cook anything there. It's against the ordinances, so they have to go get fast food. This is what we're substituting for the family. It doesn't work. You need to condition these young people with love, with encouragement. It may be a one-parent family. I'm not saying that it's going to be two parents, and that's the problem. That's my welfare reform bill. I can't wait to get down here and start talking like that. It's not just money. It's the whole environment that affects these kids. Well, I was raised in that environment. Positive energy, love, prayer, work. I worked from when I was a kid. I was behind the counter. I can't, you know, in the cash register, 8 and 9. Then when I got older, I was delivering orders. But they opened up a bank account for me on Fremont Avenue. So 11 years old, I still have that bank book. Here I'm putting my tips in. One day, $1.50, you know, and there it is. So she taught me how to save. By the way, Mom, I forgot. I spent all my money. I was saving pretty well in those days. But I want you to hear it, Mom, because there's always a new beginning. Mom, just say hello to everybody.
Yeah, I want to say hello to everybody. And I want everybody to know that Joe is such a good son that every Sunday morning he got up at the breakfast table and had me and his father and would read a couple of paragraphs. And actually he taught us more than what we knew. And he was such a good son. We really appreciated all the things he did for us. And I said to him, I got my wish because when he was a little boy, I always said, you see that gate going up to Fordham? I said, someday I want to see you come home and say to me, Ma, I was accepted. And that day came. He was 15 years old. He came running to me. He says, Ma, guess what? I was accepted in Fordham. And
Fordham Prep in those days.
Yeah, Fordham Prep. And I was the happiest mother because he gave me my wish that he went into Fordham. It was the best wish that I ever had. Then I want to say something else. That I was reading the Reader's Digest one day, and there was this poem in about enthusiasm, and it was written by Henry Ford. And I said, gee, this fits Joe so well, where he had so much enthusiasm. That,
She memorized it, and she gives it to me every day almost.
Yeah, I said, yeah, I said, in here, okay. Enthusiasm is the sparkle in your eye, the grip in your hand, the swing in your gait, the irresistible surge of will and energy to execute your ideas. Enthusiasts are fighters. They have fortitude. They have staying qualities. And enthusiasm is on the bottom of all progress. With it, there is accomplishments. Without it, they are only alibis. It was written by Henry Ford, and I says, Joe, I says, I love it because it really...
Is like your family, the story of America. Mom couldn't go past the 8th grade. She had 5 sisters, a brother. They had family problems, obviously. Who comes to America? People looking for work, jobs, not with money. All the aristocrats stayed in Italy. The ones that were poor came here. And Mom came here, and that's where she met my father. She came here. Her sisters were born there, some of them, and she came here, I guess it was your family came in 1910, you were born here in 1913. But she couldn't go past the 8th grade because they had to work. They had to deliver some money, and she worked making ties for Brooks Brothers. She got paid by piece, all right?
In those days, we had no welfare.
Right. But if you did, you wouldn't take it. You wouldn't take it. Now, the other thing is Dad came here from Italy, from an Albanian village in Italy, where Albanians were for 500 years still on asylum because they had fled the Ottoman Turks back in the Middle Ages. And here they were. There are 51 towns still today in Italy, like my father's town, where they still speak the old Albanian, the classical Illyrian, believe it or not. And that's well known by the Albanians here. It was the Albanians of Italy who saved the language for those that were being annihilated by the Turks and the Serbs and the communists. So there's a special place in the heart for the Italian Albanians by all Albanians, and that's one of the reasons they're here today. And thank you so much for always coming to support me. But Dad could only go to the 4th grade. He came here in 1929 looking for a job. Can you imagine that? Couldn't get it, had no credentials, couldn't speak a word of English, and opened up a vegetable stand on 145th Street, St. Nicholas Avenue. By the time I was born in 1940, that was a grocery store that Mom then came into in 1950 when I was 11, and that was the family business. Great training for me to take to Congress. But that's the story of America, that our place is so great, the Tocqueville said it, that people with nothing except the will to succeed and values and love can get the opportunity here and make it under adverse conditions. It's happening now. Look at the Koreans. The store my dad owned is now owned by Koreans. They're up 18 hours a day. Their kids are going to fine schools. America works for those who work. And this is the place that we've got to keep. This is the greatest opportunity society in the world. I'm going to go to Congress to make sure it stays that way, not to make it a welfare state. Okay? God bless you all for being here. We got the great officer, Steve McDonald. You want to introduce him? Yeah. Listen, Steve, let me tell you. Stephen and I met at a Terrace Circle function in Peekskill, and I heard him speak, but I knew about him just like you know about him. And I was really caught up with the commitment he has for America, for his religion. It's very pro-life, for the Irish people. And we just got to talking, and in one conversation, when I told him I was having an Irish fundraiser, themed fundraiser, he said, you know, I would like to, in fact, it was his wife, Patty, who said that first, and then we got to Steve. She says, why don't you send Steve a package of information on yourself? And I did, showing how much we believe in the same things. And the next thing I know, I get a call from Steve that he would like to be here tonight and, in effect, endorse what we're doing. So I really thank you from the bottom of my heart, Steve. My family does. We all do. We stand on values. And I'm going to bring this mic over, if you feel up to it, Steve, only if you feel up to it, say a few words.
A real hero. I've known about Joe DioGuardi longer than I had the pleasure to meet him in person. And we share the same experiences. My grandparents and my mother, and started their life in South Bronx. My grandfather was almost killed in the line of duty while working as a young police officer in the Bronx. I'm an admirer and a fan of his, and now I'm an admirer and fan of his mother. And a favorite film of my wife, mine, as a matter of fact, Patty and Connor also in Ireland. And she called last night and said, make sure you make it up to Putnam County tomorrow night. And a favorite film of ours is Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. And we always say to one another, we watch it quite often, that there are not enough Mr. Smiths in Washington today. And I have a strong feeling as a cop, you develop that sixth sense. That's how I ended up in this chair. I knew that something was wrong at Central Park 10 years ago this month, and this is what happened. And I had that feeling about Joe, that he is the right person to be in Washington, and not the representative that speaks for you today. I recently read a quote that if you shouldn't be in politics if you're not willing to communicate idea. And having listened to Joe, you know that he's willing to communicate the idea, the principle of human rights for the unborn and for those of us who inhabit this planet today. I'm so grateful that over the years and today he has been committed to human rights in Ireland. I've never accepted the idea of a petition Ireland, and I know that you don't, and I know that sooner rather than later there will be no petition, but there are not enough of our elected representatives speaking that way. My father's always told me that our own worst enemy are our own kind, and it's it's heartwarming that there are folks like Joe who pick up where my own people leave off, and I'm a downstater, and I don't live in this neck of the woods. I'm also a registered Democrat, which doesn't help too many. But I know a good person and quality politician. I see and meet him, and I believe Joe is that person. But it's not good enough for this room to hear all these fine words about Joe. You have to get out there and spread the word so that when election day comes, Joe's elected and is down in Washington representing all of you for those issues that are important to these special counties, and also for those of us who are concerned about human rights around the world that he's there representing. Those concerns also. So if my endorsement means anything, I hope it helps.
It does. Great.
You make it back to Washington. Thank you.
God bless you. Thank you very much, Steve. That endorsement means a lot. It means a lot. You're wonderful. Let me make Steve a pledge. You know, in 1985, Father Sean McManus came to me and said, Joe, we need someone to introduce a tough resolution. We saw you on the steps of the Capitol as a young member. When Margaret Thatcher came, you told her to go back home, and I did. When she came, Reagan received her, and I was a Reagan guy, but there were some things I couldn't take, and I called a rally on the steps of the Capitol against Thatcher and got into the congressional record. And Father Sean McManus came up to me and says, Joe, would you be willing to introduce the One Ireland resolution in Congress? I said, Father, it'd be my honor, and I did. Well, I pledge to you, as soon as I get back, I will reintroduce that One Ireland resolution to unify that country. That's something that I'm going to do in your name, Steve, in your name. Now, we had some guests coming from all the way from a place called Macedonia. They're ethnic Albanians. They're living in a Slavic state that's repressing them, just like the ethnic Albanians in Kosovo and Montenegro. This used to be the country of Albania before it was politically gerrymandered by the great powers in 1915, 16, and 17 to create a now failed state called Yugoslavia. You've heard of Milosevic and Milosevic and Karadzic and what happened to the poor Bosnian people. Well, it could very well happen to the Albanian people, but we've been watchful and we've kept Mr. Milosevic away, but they live under tremendous repression, and now the greatest insult of all, after good people like Ben Gilman and Jerry Nadler and Tom Lantos and a few others told Mr. Gligorov, the president of Macedonia, please allow these Albanians to have education, access to education. They comprise 30–40% of the population. You only let in 2% of them into the universities. They want to fund their own school. Education in their tongue. It's a God-given right. We take it for granted. And the response was no response until last week. They jailed all the professors like they were criminals, and these people came here. I want you to say hello to them, because I just took them to Washington to meet with the State Department and all the key people, the congressional. We had a hearing today, and first a member of the Macedonian Parliament, who is one of the most active, how would you say it, people for the national rights of the Albanian people. Mr. Arben Jafari is a member of the Macedonian Parliament, but he's an ethnic Albanian. God bless you for all the work you're doing. And we have a leader from one of the major parties, Ilyas Alimi, the party Popularity Demokratike. Thank you for coming, Ilyas. We have the woman, Mrs. Russi, Mecharim Russi, who's the head of, she's a psychologist, head of the women's movement for human rights in Macedonia. Mecharim, thank you for coming. And we have Mr. Agni Dika, Professor Dr. Dika, Vice President of the University, Computer Sciences, and he's a very strong man as well. The four of them did a wonderful job. I'm so happy that you took the time to come to my event to see that I have more than just Albanians supporting me, good people, the Irish people and the Italian people, but that's what America is all about. This is a country of diversity where we respect each other. It's in our diversity that we find our strength. And this is the model that the rest of the world should pick up. If Gligorov had any brains, he'd have a multi-ethnic, multicultural, multinational state, multi-religious state, and he'd promote that, not a chauvinistic state for one group, the Macedonian Slavs, and that's what's going on. They haven't read the Constitution of the United States of America. That's all they have to do and adopt it, and things would be very good in that region. God bless you for what you're doing. Thank you for supporting me and all the other Albanians who came. Okay, with that, let me turn it back to my good friend. John, thank you for all the work you've done. This young man, let me tell you, I have to run around, I have to raise money, it's unfortunate. But our consultant says, Joe, that's your job. You're the one that's got to ask, and by the way, you're pretty good at it, as what many of you know. But he says, you got to ask, and you got to ask, and you got to ask till they get sick and tired of hearing you, and then ask again. Why? Because without getting our message across, you just heard the message. Now, how many people know who Joe DioGuardi is? Well, a third of the district knows, but the rest of the district really doesn't. But they got a congresswoman that they don't know either, but she's filling their mail now with your tax dollars on no stamps called the franking privileges, a privilege lying about her record. Really lying. It's unbelievable. Now, I got to match that. I don't have free stamps like she does. I got to put a stamp on every envelope. Costs money. If I don't raise $200,000 more, as good as I am, as much as you love me, as bad as she is, she's going to be your representative. And if she wins one more time, she's going to be there for 10, 20 years. So we need to energize everybody to do two things, because we've come through the convention process, petition process, we're almost out of it. I want to say something about John on that score, but we got to raise the money, and we got to get the vote out. It would be a sin to have this district represented by one of the 12 Republicans in Congress out of 435, or 235 Republicans who joined Bill Clinton on this heinous thing that the Cardinal and the Pope called infanticide, where, as you know, partial birth abortions is just an excuse so an abortion is not called murder. They literally have to turn the baby around in the womb, create a breech birth, take the feet out first, because if the head came out first, it would be alive, and that they can't kill it. Then it's murder. So they got to take the feet out, and just before the head comes out of the birth canal, they put a scissor in the back of the neck, take the brain, a suction thing. It's disgusting as hell, and yet this is what's going on. That's what she's endorsed, believe it or not. It's even difficult to describe it, but you might as well know what it is, because we're going to have to send out some letters and mail to educate the people about how bad this is. Number two, she ranks of the 235 Republicans, number 3 on the Gay Rights Caucus. Listen, this is America. You can be who you want to be. You have to respect everybody. I'm for the human rights of everybody, but not with my money, not with your money. We don't want government-sanctioned same-sex marriages. How to create benefits to that. That's what the issue is. It's money. I have nothing against anybody in this country, but don't use our tax dollars when we need every dollar, and we're bleeding in this district. We're losing jobs, taxes are going up, jobs are going down, everything's wrong, and we've got now a representative that votes like Bella Abzug and Nita Lowey. It's got to change, and I'm going to change it. Get me there. Work hard. Don't stop. Get out there. Get your friends. Dig in. Write another check. Do something, or else you're going to be stuck with her. God forbid. Now, John Sarcone. This young man, as you know, graduated law school, came to me as a volunteer, and I took a chance on him, he took a chance on me to further his career, and we're together. Introduced me to some great people like Steve DeLuca and Diane Computo and others. Big family, works hard, he's learned a lot with me. I've learned a lot about the district I didn't know much about because his family was there for a long period of time. And what he's done recently is just incredible, because this petition process is extremely difficult. Not only did he bang down the doors to get me at those town meetings, and he's got that kind of persistence, but the petition process, getting the army out. We didn't have the machine, he did it. And right now, he's been in Albany, back and forth and back, because we're being challenged on some petitions. We got to challenge, some of our people are challenging, but we want to be sure they're properly advised. So he's working a couple of nights. When we filed the petitions, he stayed in the office all night. I left at 3 o'clock. He was still there. He took the car up the next morning. I told the driver, Mike Ryan, he's here. Don't talk to him. Let him sleep in the car so he can get the petitions up. That was on the 11th, the last day. We did it so we can get all the petitions in. And now he's got to do it because we got the challenges. So I thank you for all you're doing, but don't let it go to your head. We're not there yet. We got to win. We don't win. You heard what my mother said. Excuses are for losers. I don't want to have any losers around me. We're going to win. So keep working hard. Thank you, everybody. God bless you all.
Joe, I start each day as a new day. When it comes to the campaign, I'm serious, I'm dedicated. When I met you at the symposium on war crimes in the Balkans, which I hosted at Pace University when I was a law student, I was impressed with you then, and I'm impressed with you now. And I work day and night to see that nothing gets lost, and we have great people working behind you. You keep doing what you're doing, be the great person that you are, and God will take care of the rest, because we're all working and we're all behind you, 100%. Close. I think the Clancy brothers would like to play a
Yes, I want to hear some Irish music.
Clancy tradition would like to play a closing tune, but yes. I failed to recognize a couple people, and certainly I want to recognize my great county legislator from my district, where I live in Croton-on-the-Hudson, representing Croton and Yorktown, Mr. Andy Donovan. I heard Alice Grove's name mentioned. I didn't see Alice come in, but Alice has been a strong supporter, and you might have recognized her name if you signed one of Joe's Republican Party petitions, because she was right on the top as the top the committee to fill vacancies. Alice is a Republican leader in Mount Pleasant and a strong supporter. Thank you, Alice. I'd like to thank everybody here tonight for coming, and if you haven't filled out a volunteer sheet, if there's anybody who would like to help, right now the next step is we have to win. And in order to win, we have to get our people out to vote. Out of that 15,000 Republicans that will come out on September 10th to vote, 51% of them are going to be our people. And our people are the people that believe in the sanctity of life, in conservative values, and want to foster traditional families and to bring America back to where it was and restore the fiber that and fabric of American society that has been degenerated over the past 30 years by these liberals and people like Sue Kelly. So we all have to work hard every day and spread the message, and we get the vote out on September 10th. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you all very much for coming along, and on behalf of Anne and John and myself up here, I want to say we enjoyed it thoroughly. And we were talking to Stephen there, and we asked him what's his favourite song, and he said The Minstrel Boy. So Stephen, here's Pat's going to sing a couple of verses of The Minstrel Boy for you.
our soul of love and bravery. Thy songs were made for the pure and free, that'll never sound in slavery. When boyhood's fire was in my blood, I dreamt of ancient free men, of Greece and Rome, who bravely stood, 300 men and 3 men. Then I thought I yet might see our fetters rent in twain, and Ireland long a province be, a nation once again, a nation once again, a nation once again, and Ireland long a province be, a nation once again.